Hello, good evening, good morning, whatever time zone you're in, and welcome back. And if you're in the US, happy Thanksgiving. It's the fourth Thursday in November, so it's Thanksgiving time. So if you are there, happy Thanksgiving. I hope the turkey worked out, or you're still working on it, depending what time it is. So we're here, last days of November. And when there is the last days of November, there's always one topic. We have that in the German version of the Salespiration, but also in the international version, even a little bit more. You know why we're doing the US or the international Salespiration or the English-speaking Salespiration is because of the own development of our own company over the last years and in the following years that we decided we work individual with our clients in an English-speaking room, that we offer on long-term more English-speaking content and English-speaking products. So of course, there's always that thing, if you watch us, that we have sometimes very long periods of preparation, which kind of doesn't mix good with a title called Emergency Sales. And is that even possible? And that's kind of like in the end of the year, I'm always talking about emergency sales, how you can and if it's possible to turn around a year. And while in the many years before, it was kind of a topic of course there was, but it wasn't that it was that big, broad topic. It wasn't that so many entrepreneurs were struggling to figure out their way forward. So what we're focusing on today is that we're not focusing on the drift into 2021. We're focusing solemnly on the last weeks and days of that year. You can use the tactics or the ideas I present you kind of every way around, but normally it works best in the end of the year for a big reason. And that year, even more, we have that effect. Normally, investments and consummation of anything will work constantly through the year. There will be peaks and highs in it, but normally it's not that it's kind of like that everyone is holding the money together for making decisions at the end of the year. Normally, we have more of a broad concept where money is spent. In years of crisis, we know that even it doesn't make the most kind of sense, let's be honest here for a second, but every money kind of and if you buy big stuff is kind of pushed till the most last end of the year, which of course in a B2B world makes sense because with the 31st December, the fiscal year end. So your tax year ends. And as an entrepreneur with a company, your business, of course, you have to have a look at taxing season much more than a consumer side. In years of crisis, and that's why I'm saying it's kind of a weird concept and also not weird concept because that kind of taxing thing normally don't apply to you if you're a retail client, but kind of retail clients, so probably your client even behaves like that. So they look at what they have earned in a year and look at the end. And of course, there is COVID's bonus, but always, of course, a Christmas bonus, end of year bonus. So bonus checks will come out in the end of the year. So that's why we normally have an overflow of cash flow into the markets. And that's why course, Christmas shopping is a Christmas shopping spree. In a year of crisis like 2020, things a little bit differently. And if you're now a retail client looking at that, you probably should think about that. You also have a year of 2021 in front of you and probably don't make the dumb decisions. But on the other hand, we're here for the entrepreneurial side and you should use that. Of course, tomorrow, the day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday is starting. No big deal because I don't know if the most of my English-speaking crowd knows the background of Black Friday, but I'm going to repeat it. Black Friday was the day where most of retail businesses really got into the black. So they started earning money out of the red into the black. That's why it's called Black Friday. Over the years, Cyber Monday was added for the more like digital online e-commerce shopping side. But now we have kind of these like a whole week, normally starting out early with early Black Friday and going into like the Tuesday of things of a Black Friday week. We normally don't like, because Black Friday is always hard on like, you have to like throw money at clients. And if you have enough possibility, of course, you can go down with your prices like 20% or so. But it's always kind of that. Black Friday is a battle about like who goes lower with certain kind of pricings. So which we normally, if you're a small business and that is not your business model to kind of like kill yourself while giving discounts to your clients, then we normally would tell everyone wait for after Black Friday, but announce that their stuff is coming up. It's not that people all spend all their money, and especially not in a year of crisis on the dates around Black Friday. So the last days and weeks is always about like, you are probably in the position that you what we call emergency sales. You have to do an emergency sale to pay rent, to pay your food, or just to get like your business turnaround for the next year. That's what it's called, an emergency sale. So emergency sale is always that there is much pressure on you. But on the other hand, there is cash flow in like the market. So it's a mix which can work, and that's why that video works best in the end of the year, or that input, but the video in itself works best in the end of the year. But it can be used all over the year, because of course there is that thing that depending on your situation as an entrepreneur, you can or have to do emergency sales. Doesn't matter if like tax wants more money or whatever happened, there's always quite a lot of reasons that a business is in the position of doing an emergency sale. So that's the baseline. And of course, the question is that even possible? Yes, it is possible in a very short-term amount to even get to a high number of sales. But it's easier at the end of the year, even in a year of crisis, because people now know what they can spend, what they want to spend, and also they're a little bit more into the room of shopping spree, because they probably are very strict on them and didn't want to spend so much money. And we have a very weird crisis. The crises in that extreme we had as a historical base were very different. We're talking wars, not pandemic. And even the last big pandemic we all knew about, Spanish flu, was combined with the war. So these extreme crises normally were with a very deep of destruction in infrastructure, and you have to rebuild your houses and streets. We of course don't, and thanks God, don't have that. So there is a certain kind of amount of money which wasn't put in the market because we wouldn't travel so much, we weren't dining out that much, cultural budget, no concert. So it is a weird crisis where even depending on your living state, your expenses got down, and now there's probably free money or free cash flow, even if you have to put down some, didn't even earn that much. So it's a very weird crisis. And there are parts of that crisis which are not really affected on a money side. Every one of us is affected, but not everyone is affected on the money side. And that's also a very weird thing for crisis. That's why, side note, freak note, should we call side note nerd note? I think freak note is wrong. I think we call that the future nerd note instead of footnote or side note, nerd note. Of course, that's very differently, and we didn't know that about, and that's why many of the economic models are totally going havoc, and nobody understands, and now everyone needs to remodel their model. So nice nerd note, economic prediction didn't work out very well with the old crisis scenarios. So does an emergency sales work? Yes, but it's always, it's an emergency. So you're in a state of crisis with yourself because you know you have to make money. So you have to be very aware. You should not get into that situation, but sometimes you end up in that situation. And when you're there, you have to do it. And depending on how much free cash flow is in the market, it's a good time to work it. And that's where we are. In that year, there is free cash flow to use. So yes, it can work, but what have you to do? So first of all, what you have to do for emergency sale, you have to be very specific about the target group you kind of focus on. If you go now into a big reach campaign, people who don't know you well, it will take way too much time to get them spend money in that year of 2020. Well, we have just left 5 weeks. So first of all, be very specific about your target group, and your target group should be, doesn't matter what target group you are, to be in a very specific state, and that state is what we call warm. The model I work with and I developed over the years is we not only work with the classical cold and warm model. I always was very confused because like that's not the state people buy. So the model I developed over the years has 3 stages. So it's cold, warm, and hot. And if you think about it, if you want your clients to buy from you, they have to be in that I want to buy from you. And that's not lukewarm. It's hot. They're hot for you. And that's where you move your target group. So you look at your target group state-wise and look at if they're warm enough to buy from you, so that they move from warm to hot, and that's your job. So focus on a warm group. Don't approach people you don't know. Work with what you have. It's a much more successful way of emergency sales, because from cold to warm and from warm to hot, everything has a specific time they need to move through that phases. So you can cut down on that phase moving by focusing on your warm crowd you already have. You also have a very specific target group which you can use, and that's former clients who are not at the moment clients. So they bought something from you, they're not in an actual coaching program or consulting program. So you can use them also to target them very specifically. Hey, what about working together, last rush or next? Because like you can now build them and work with them in 2021, because like world's not going down, we need you in the next year too. So that's also a good way to do. Also be very specific, focusing on that warm to hot and on former and potential clients. And really think about what they need now. That's kind of the magic ingredient of an emergency sale. Look at the stuff they need now from your big portfolio. What are they in the position to buy? What do they see? We have on the German speaking side, and coming for you soon, the Real Business Magic Challenge and the Inspired Action. 33 days of inspired actions, a very good product which they need now. The Badass with a Big Heart coming up, the coaching program I'm leading, and the 6 months into like 2021. It is they need it, but they have to be a little bit of state of mind. So we're opening the doors on the 14th of December, but closing kind of just 14th of January, so that we have a little bit more time and wiggle room to tell them why it's a necessary step. So that's also when you want emergency sales, is very specific. And normally, if you're not a trained consultant, like a strategy consultant and sales consultant like I am, focus on stuff which already worked, but focus on what do your client really need. It's kind of the one thing I always see if I'm talking about conversion optimization, focusing on the next step in the business model. There's always one big blind spot in the clients, and that's what are the problems of my clients. So they do not focus on the client's problems in their sales communications. And your sales communication, if you look at my video I'm presenting you, I'm focusing on one specific need, and that is money in the bank, and that's freaking fast. I need emergency sales. It's a very specific need, and I'm kind of like running around that problem, telling you it is how it came with you, how does that problem look, why is it a problem you can fix. So it's very problem orientated while I'm giving you a solution and some insight, what you can help your way out. And of course, also that's kind of what you can replicate, but you should not stay, and that's kind of like one big mistake in an emergency sale. You should open up also the room that there is a necessary step of monetizing the next step with you. So think about you're a coach or consultant, and you give a hell lot of content about like emergency sales, but there is no possibility of a bought product in the end. You won't have any kind of sales by, because what should they buy? So focus also your arguments on that kind of room, and don't go down like I give them content and then they have to figure out what they're going to buy. Not going to work. So emergency sales is possible if you focus on the right kind of stuff. and focus on what is necessary for the next step. Another big point in emergency sale is don't be shy to like go very direct. If you have a warm crowd, they are probably even happy if you PM, DM them and stuff like that. Open up direct communications lines with you. Especially normally in a state of where you have emergency sales, you don't have a schedule like freaking me, because like it's the end of the year, my this and next week are batshit crazy. So appointments, yeah, send me an email. You will get one in 2 weeks. But that's kind of like a normal room for our business here, and we the emergency sale is not the thing we do, and that's also something where you should very be aware of. Everyone can make money in the end of the year, but it's a different kind of focus if you focus on emergency sales or if you focus on sales on a more long term. So if you don't need emergency sales, don't use the tactics for emergency sales. Use a proper classical sales argument. I think you have enough input on me on that to figure out your first steps here. Otherwise, appointments are there. We can work one-on-one probably in 2 weeks starting. So that's where you see like it's a continuous working flow, and that's where you have to be very clear. If you're a business which needs emergency sales, you have to focus on the strategy for emergency sales. If you are a business which went quite well to 2020, focus on your sales and focus also on your 2021 stuff, not going into the room like pushing the limit too far, go into that way. And if you really are kind of like, no, my year is already done for whatever reason, I'm not advising on cutting off a year before the year is done, but you can have your reasons. Then focus on the planning of 2021, but hold up your communication lines that people don't kind of forget about you and you have to start over at point -10 because you went off the radar. So emergency sales is much more about focusing on specific groups, focusing on the very specific needs of your potential clients at the moment yet, and especially making very proper offers and telling them it's a good idea to work with you now, or to buy your stuff now, or to buy it now and to start working later on. All that kind of stuff. You can offer discounts on like now you pay now and we work together in the future. That's always a nice way to do stuff like that. If you have a good loyal client base, they think about, yeah, if I get a discount now, I need you in the next year, why not? So that's kind of like, and if you don't need an emergency sale but want to amp up your sales a little bit and have a good running business but change prices, so hire them in the next year, like I do, then it's always a good idea to establish that prices will be higher in 21. If you want to buy in now and fix your price for the next year, you have to come around that. So that's always kind of a nice way to do stuff. So there are many tactics out there, even at the end of the year, to push your sales quite high. There's one thing, and that's differentiating the emergency sale from other sales tactic, at least for me as a sales professional, not normally for my clients. I'm always working on them, and the longer our clients and the more work I with them, the more they get out of that. But for most people out there, sales is not a fun thing they want to do. So they're already stressed out about it. Add on the stress that you know your sales have to work because there is not enough money in the bank. Then you have to figure out a way, like figuring out like how to manage your stress, and that's very essential. Let's say you look at your books and you know you need an emergency sale, so you don't want to offer Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So let's say today is Thursday, you go into the market with your offer on Tuesday or let's say Wednesday next week. And there's one essential step. First of all, be very, very driven by structure about like, who do I target? How do I do that? But also work on yourself, because the most thing people buy from two typical persons: enthusiastic about their product and a certain kind of confidence. The confidence sell or the pseudo confidence sell is a very, very standard tactic. It's not an only standing tactic, but it is truth in it. We're going to do sales confidence next week. You see a reason here why I'm doing that next week. But it's very essential to understand that if you have the pressure of making money in the back, get yourself a good stress management and do your sales from that position of non-pressuring your, like giving your pressure to your potential client. Never a good idea with pressure working in sales. And also don't go in the room of neediness, because nobody likes needy people. And if you're friends with them, it's okay-ish, but you don't buy from needy people. So even that you are aware of that you need the money, please make a step back and be the professional you are. That's the big differentiating point if your emergency sales works or not, is the sales confidence you bring to the game. So that even if you're like, it's kind of the exploding truck in your back, but the thing is people don't know about the exploding truck, and it does not help if you show them the exploding truck. If you want a pity sale, look at that videos I did on that, on the dirty sales tricks of pity sales. The thing is, you can do a pity sales if you don't want a business in 2021. So probably wouldn't advise on that, but that's what's essential. Even in an emergency sales situation, be structured, calm yourself down, be confident, and for freaking shitload, be enthusiastic about your shit. That's always one thing which irritates me the most, and that's why I'm not buying sometimes stuff from people. I really think they are good at their job, but they do not have fun with like telling me what's fun with them, like their enthusiasm. And even if it's an awful, like, you know, my sales pitches, if I'm like telling you I finally have a coaching program, it's called Badass with a Big Heart, my potential clients are like, oh shit, that's not going to be an easy ride. No, but I need it. Yep. But I'm enthusiastic about the way to go. I'm enthusiastic about how they end up in the end. And please be that. And especially in the room of emergency sales, you really have to do that. So to sum it up, emergency sales are possible. You have a hell of shit tips in that video. And we're working on your sales confidence starting up next week. So I wish you a good turkey, a happy Thanksgiving, and whatever the hell also is going out there. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you soon next week again. Bye-bye.